when you wait until you're perfect to launch the thing or do the thing, get the business out the door, post the content, you are waiting too long. With all due respect, internet cousin, you're waiting too long. You're leaving money on the table, time is passing you by, and opportunities that wanted to call your name couldn't reach you. You sent them to voicemail. And so in this video, we are going to nip that perfectionistic spirit in the bud. Stop thinking of it as a strength. Stop thinking of it as a healthy striving for excellence. And instead, go from park to drive and get this road trip on the highway. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to the Percy Ponders YouTube channel/podcast. This is space for sensitive and thoughtful e-cousins to build lives and businesses we don't want to escape. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So in order to understand ditching the spirit of perfectionism, you're going to think of this acronym called SMIR. SMIR. There are 3 parts to it, and they're iconic parts. How do I know? Because I have struggled immensely with the perfectionistic spirit at different times. And in the words of Brene Brown, what is perfectionism all about? Perfectionism is not a healthy striving for excellence. It's not. Perfectionism is rooted in shame. It's a fear that, if I get found out for my flaws, that will disqualify me for all good things. That will be the reason I was seeking to prove I am unlovable and unworthy of great things. But it's like, let's be honest here, you know what I'm saying? Look at all the incompetents who run the world. Look no further than the presidency, you know what I'm saying? What? Look at the people in corporate who run things. During my time in corporate, I'm a full-time creative, coach to leaders and visionaries now. But during my time in corporate, one thing I found is that it wasn't the most competent person who got the biggest opportunities. It wasn't the most perfectionistic person who got the best promotions and ran things. It was the person who had a bias toward action, who had negotiated the best relationship with uncertainty and navigating the unknown. That's it. We all know that one person, that loud person, just like plowing their way to the top. And it wasn't that they were the best. It was that they were the best known. They had the most courage and a bias toward action. What I've learned building my business, this is my first year full-time doing this, and I have built so much and learned so much, grown by leaps and bounds on Instagram, maybe over 10, 20, 30,000 followers over there in the past few months, and numbers climbing on all platforms, serving people I love to work with, all that. So I can speak to this as someone who's doing the thing. I can confirm that when you evolve your relationship with the unknown, get out of your own way, and stop using perfectionism as the crutch to stay small and overanalyze, oh my God, the world's going to open up to you. So think of the SMEAR method. It stands for seek mastery, iterate, and refine. Let's understand first seeking mastery. What is seeking mastery all about? Seeking mastery tells us what? Every profession, trade, or craft where someone can ascend to the level of master, right? Whether it's legal profession, law, therapist, you name it, blacksmith, cobbler, speaker, content creator, all of them. There is a natural progression to mastery. Robert Greene talks about this in his book called Mastery. And very important to remember about the road to mastery, that there is an apprenticeship phase. What's important about that phase is that you're not that good. You're not that good. It's about quantity of reps leading to quality of output and quality of reps, right? So think of the seeking mastery phase as a time where you're doing a whole bunch of volume. You're posting a lot of content, right? You are seeing a lot of clients, seeing a lot of patients, making a lot of sales calls, doing a lot of whatever activities help you to just become proficient in doing your craft, right? And that volume begets insight, which then allows you to stumble in to better. Consider how doctors go on this long meandering educational path wherein they start out in med school and then they do residency, some do fellowship before they're practicing as a full-time doctor called attending. What does that mean? That before they're making the big dollar bucks, people don't realize this, doctors are going through many an apprenticeship phase where they get to be bad, right? Where they're either paying or getting paid to not be that good. They're under supervision of someone who is good, who's been practicing way longer than them. And through that process of being not so good and getting feedback, hopefully not killing any patients in the process, right? They get to a point where they're pretty darn good at what they do. Not all, but some. You know what I'm saying? There's a little racism in the medical system. We want to talk about that. You know what I'm saying? So this is the first phase of your journey to overcoming perfectionism, is realizing that there is a natural progression to getting exceptional at anything where you have to seek mastery. And you might think of like, oh, well, like Beyonce's just so good. Like, oh, well, she's just perfect. No, Beyonce got to start that apprenticeship phase way sooner than most people. Think about how she was doing that whole Destiny's Child bit. Think about it. She was doing the whole Destiny's Child bit when most of us were afraid to say our name in front of a classroom. She was doing those 10,000 hours to get really good, way before any of us had the gall to go after what we really wanted, because she had the fortune and privilege of being born into a family where she was encouraged to seek mastery in the area where she was uniquely gifted at a young age. You may not have that, so you get to give yourself the grace of the apprenticeship phase. What would it look like for you to give yourself the grace of the apprenticeship phase while you're seeking mastery on this road to being excellent? Not perfect, but excellent. Okay, so that's one. And let me know what comes up for you down in the comments. 2, in our smear method to erasing perfectionism in pursuit of mastery and excellence, is we iterate. Okay. Iteration builds on our road to mastery, wherein we get good by looking at the evidence and fruits of our effort and labor and consider what all worked, what all didn't work, what needs some polish. Travis, what's an example of how that happens? I got you, e-cousin. So one example of this in my own business is I'm not ashamed to admit, when I first launched my coaching business, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed at the output of certain things because I hold myself to a standard of excellence in the work I do. And I knew that perfectionism was getting in my way. So what happened? I posted the first landing page for people to book a call in my coaching business many moons ago. And there was a typo on that page. And one person pointed it out to me. And I was overcome with this wave of shame because I want to be good at what I do. And I felt like that reflected poorly on me. But I do extend myself grace in that moment because I realized, one, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. Everybody feels like everybody had that. Okay, Hannah Montana. If you don't know, you don't know. I can't help you. I realized, though, wow, I'm proud of myself for shipping this thing quickly because I have all these people reaching out to me on the internet asking, do you offer sessions? Is there a coaching program, anything like that? And so I just hurried up and got something up because I'd been taking on clients, but I have a proper process to really onboard people. And so the V1 of my first funnel was janky. I'd been coaching people for years. I'd built the brands of Lewis Howes and a whole bunch of other well-known people in podcasting world, thought leadership space. I wrote his keynote speeches where he was getting paid a pretty plush pound for them speeches. I did that for years. And only within the past couple of years did I take building my personal brand seriously. You know what I'm saying? Why do we say all this? You get to iterate. I took that feedback and I got better. Right? Okay, so here's the third part of this process of getting perfectionism out of the way, stepping into healthy striving for excellence and mastery, is refine. So you've been taking aligned action, you're on your road to mastery, and you're iterating. So you're learning from each round of action you take, right? Each round of product you ship, each round of surgeries you do in the medical field. But now this is more geared toward creative people and entrepreneurial people. Now you get to refine. So refinement is where we start to trim the fat. Refinement is where we get the choreo from dress rehearsal to main stage prime time ready. You know what I'm talking about? It's where we go from Beyonce doing her little thing in the dance studio to Beyonce performing at the Beachella. If you guys remember that moment, it was pretty epic, pretty iconic, okay? This is the Super Bowl. This is the time where we get things to the level that they can be. And how do we get them there? Well, we have been seeking mastery. We've been iterating, so we've been learning a lot. And now, as we refine, we start to set up systems that allow us to create predictable results of a certain caliber with consistency. That's the big part that the people miss out on. Predictable results with consistency. So in the project management world, you have this thing called, excuse me, I had to drink some coffee. You have this thing called Six Sigma perfection, which is this whole idea that you institute a process and plan to ensure that things are delivered to a certain level of excellence. It's why airplanes can not crash for the most part. It's why so many highly technical, specific processes work seamlessly. It's why bridges and trusses and structures that we just willingly hand our lives over to don't annihilate us on the daily is because someone iterated and refined their process to the point of excellence. And so that's where systems come into play. I'll do another video on systems. Make sure you subscribe, and you can support this channel. By the way, I would love us to get beyond 1,000 subscribers and to more. That would be really cool, because I believe that the world would be a totally different place if sensitive and thoughtful people stepped in and owned their power as entrepreneurs and leaders. We need more people with your wiring stepping up to the plate and letting their light shine. So, smear, seek mastery, iterate, refine. And again, the refine phase is all about now setting up systems and instituting processes so that your excellence is not random. It's not up for debate as to whether or not you can deliver. You have a set of steps that you follow. You have a vetted process, but that only comes on the heels of iterating. And so when it comes to an unconventional path, comes to being an entrepreneur, someone who's meant to color outside the lines, or perhaps you're at a plateau in your work or your business where you know you need to take things to the next level, but you want to get out of your own way because you have some patterns, ways of being that don't support you, some mindsets that aren't supporting you, or some literal systems that aren't working for you. Well, that's why we do what we do around these parts. There are resources down below for you to explore working with me one-on-one. We also have group coaching experience coming up and some other resources to help you with structure and systems, because these are things I wish I'd had forever and ever and ever ago. But again, perfectionism is lying to you. It is not a healthy striving for excellence. Perfectionism is shame personified. And it's not going to get you to where you want to go with expediency. And also, what's funny is that perfection, you are not required to be perfect to be great. Let that sink in. You're not. And another thing, I was thinking of this the other day, is that you realize there's a margin of error baked into even the most specific processes where we would believe there's no margin for error. What do I mean by that? So even when it comes to technical things like surgery, there is a small margin for error, even with certain procedures. There is. How do I know? I was Googling this the other day. It's small, but there's still a little bit of margin for error where people can have the incision slightly larger in certain spaces and things still go all right. Buildings are built with a little give in them, right? The big multi-story skyscrapers in New York City and whatnot are built to account for the margin for error. That's why they have some sway and some give in them. It's why in Eastern wisdom they talk about how the strongest substance is water. And it's not because it's so sturdy, it's because it's malleable, it's supple. It can bow and bend, right? And so, perfect people, overrated. People, route to mastery, iconic. That's what we want more of. Pass along to a friend if you found useful. Let me know what your experience is with this down below.